Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins, United States Championship match next week. Is this another retention for Bobby Lashley, or is the Almighty going to be dethroned? We're going to talk about it in just a second, so stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. Of course, joined by my tag team partner, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. Bobby Lashley, Seth freaking Rollins. We had a bit of a clash backstage between the two. Bobby Lashley kind of just came out of absolutely nowhere to speak to Seth, who still had his little run-ins with Riddle and all of that shenanigans are still going on. But it looks like, well, we are getting Seth versus Lashley next week on Raw with the United States Championship involved. So we ask ourselves the question here, and as we do almost every single week, what would be the outcome? What's the possible outcome? What do we want to see? What do we think we're going to see? What's going on? Now, to give you just a little bit more context to just it simply being Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley and the United States Championship, there's been talk within the wrestling world over the last day or two, I believe it is, with some confusion or nothing seems to be straightforward, or there's a little bit of chaos in terms of what WWE are going to do with a certain tribal chief. That tribal chief, of course, being Roman Reigns, the head of the table, the man who has had both belts in hostage for over 700 days. There's a possibility he's going to have it for longer. There's talk of 1,000 days. I hope not. But they don't know what they're doing exactly leading up to WrestleMania. There's talk of they don't want him to have both championships at WrestleMania. So what is the likely outcome? Now, for me, these two guys who were talking about, Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley, for me, are very noteworthy contenders to as possible realistic people to dethrone Roman Reigns in some sort of way at some point. Is what we're getting between these two gonna lead to one of them challenging Roman? Which one, how, and when? I'm not answering the question. Mex is answering that question for me.
I mean, it's very weird because the minute Seth Rollins gets kind of inserted into a program he's had nothing to do with, he's coming out of one feud and he's literally just walked into this. It does seem very slapped together sort of thing.
Yeah.
We know that Seth Rollins is one of Triple H's boys, one of his favorites, one of his guys, brought him through from FCW times. Could have sacked him, didn't. Made him the first NXT champion. Obviously, main roster had all the co-signs with him for the Authority and all of that stuff. So it seems, and a lot of circles are saying that, this is, the nepotism has begun. They're gonna move the belt from my man.
For Lashley.
Exactly, and move it on to Seth Rollins. It's for me, it's just very weird how this came together. Like, if at least Seth Rollins said in the ring when he was trying to that, I'm after gold, I'm coming for the United States Championship. It's like, okay, cool. It's like Bobby Lashley walked himself into defending his title, and it's like, I know you're that kind of guy character-wise, but really and truly, who does that sort of thing? The thing is, with Bobby Lashley, if he was to lose the title here and move on to Roman Reigns, spectacle-wise, it could be good. This is the Almighty, this, that, and the other. They'll gas it up. They'll give us the vignette. They'll sell the dream. We know they have no intention of making Roman lose the title. If it wasn't Drew, and if it's not going to be Brock, Lashley is... He's next, I guess, on that pecking order, but the gulf between even Drew... Yeah, the gulf between even Drew and Lashley is massive. So... it's not looking very good. I don't even see the possibility of Lashley being involved in something like you're saying in terms of splitting the titles. And he takes WWE Championship and Roman takes the other. It seems to be more of a case that, you know, people have spoke about if they do some type of ladder match or something like that, pull the 2 belts down, and it's going to be Roman, and more like a Seth Rollins that pulls down the other one. So maybe, you know, we're overthinking it. Maybe Bobby just, you know, retains here and keeps doing what Bobby's doing. And I think being that kind of mid-card champion, holding his title on Raw as the top belt on Raw, he's been doing a good job. He's never been the most interesting of character and stuff, but, you know, good dominant matches, good performances.
Yeah,
I think he's been doing a really good job. I dread to think if they remove him from this position, maybe he gets a chance at Roman, faces Roman, loses to Roman, then what?
Then what? Right. And this is my thing now, because it's like you've got this possibility, you've got someone that they need to kind of throw at Roman to lose, basically. But who is that going to be? Obviously, we've gone past Drew. Brock's not there no more. Seth, I think Seth might just be that guy who's a little bit too close to Roman, so they don't want to do that. I don't know. I don't think they want Seth to lose to Roman for now. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's in my head. So out of the 2, it's Lashley. But my thing is this: I'd rather there be some kind. I think there still needs to be some kind of build for Lashley to face Roman. If they were to run that, like, you know, or put the feelers out like tomorrow, I'd be like, I don't think I actually want to see that. Or there's no part of me there's no small part of me that believes there's a possibility Bobby could beat Roman. I think what probably needs to happen, if we're going down this road of Lashley eventually getting to Roman, Lashley has to beat Seth. Lashley has to beat Seth, be the top guy, but then at the same time, I don't want him to go to Roman with the United States Championship in his hand. So he'll still have to lose it in some way.
Yeah.
But for him to just straight lose it, it's kind of be like, you just lost to Seth. How are you getting to Roman? You know what I mean? There has to be some kind of build. So it's a funny one. It's a crazy one. And as you said, you know, Lashley's been doing some good stuff with the United States Championship. He's beaten AJ Styles, former WWE champion in The Miz. That's neither here nor there. I don't know. You know, beat Ciampa as well, in a decent match. But at the same time, as much as he's done well, I don't know if it's actually elevated him for anyone to really think, right, he now has to face Roman Reigns. He needs to face Roman Reigns. No one else should face Roman Reigns apart from Bobby Lashley. Roman's just too far gone. That's the problem. Roman's too far gone right now. That's the problem.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, he's doing good work with the United States title. But yeah, I think that, I don't know, there maybe needs to be more around him, and this would have helped if, you know, Hurt Business was still a thing. Then you're almost thinking, right, this is the mid-card champion, or the guy that we visibly see every week. He's got a little posse around him. You know, they look like the part. Like, even if it's not Bobby on his own, this conglomerate could take down Roman and could become like world champion. It's pretty much like, I don't know if you would agree with this, but I would say, in just terms of that ranking, probably Gunther with Imperium around him looks a bit more like, okay, like, let's get Gunther and Roman in the ring. Like, that could be something. But yeah, I think, and maybe it's because as well, we've seen, you know, Lashley at the top and how he was treated at the top. Although, yes, that was under another regime. I'm not too sure anything would change with this current regime and how they perceive Lashley. I think he's probably in about the best position he could get, you know, with how things are set up right now. So yeah, he would just be fodder to Roman. Hopefully they could put on a really good match and make us believe, you know, you can mess around, toy around with Roman a bit, as he's, I guess, the bigger guy. But yeah, like you're right. I don't think there's anything, even if they did put him in that position, that would then still make you think that this could happen. Right.
Now, say for example, this match has nothing to do with Roman. Neither guy is going to be pushed towards Roman at all, or whatever else. Is there still a possibility that this match could be one that is almost there to further elevate the United States Championship, because if if Lashley wins, or even if Seth wins, having the United States Championship on Seth Rollins, it was kind of like when John Cena won it again after winning the WWE Championship however many times. But then if Lashley wins, Lashley beats Seth Rollins, one of the top guys. Do you think that's what we're working towards, or is it just this whole Roman thing? Or what happens if it's not to do with Roman?
There is definitely still an element of them making sure this title's booked well. Like we said, this is the de facto top title now on Raw because we don't see Roman over there and stuff. So
right.
There's still an element that they are pushing the United States title up the ranks within our fan opinion. If Rollins does win it and come out with it, because we know Rollins is a top guy. So we're going to think, right, he's got this title now. It's an important title. He's going to have good matches and defend it around the place. So that might be just what this exercise is for, more than anything. But of course, where we're looking at, Roman is only going to show up on, I say TV, but Roman's only going to show up now. Saudi Arabia, which is what, maybe October, November or so. Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. Like, this guy's not showing up for Extreme Rules. Whatever the December pay-per-view is, he's not showing up for. Day one, okay, January, they said they wanted to make something of day one and make it feel like an important thing. So maybe we see him there as well. But this is it now. It's just like checkpoints. So who can we bring forward for him at these different checkpoints? Bobby Lashley, maybe Saudi Arabia. I think it looks like maybe they might be angling for Tyson Fury then because of the following Clash at the Castle. Okay. But I'm not sure if Bobby Lashley gets a title shot at all. And if he does, it's probably going to be somewhere before the end of the year at one of these other pay-per-views. So, this may just be to make the US title feel more important.
So I mentioned earlier in the show that, WWE don't necessarily want Roman to have both titles come WrestleMania. Now, we're talking, about 6 months away from now, or a little bit longer. How do we possibly strip at least one title from Roman Reigns before WrestleMania? And also, another question is, with the possibility of there being Roman versus The Rock, does Roman even need a championship come WrestleMania?
No, he doesn't need it. But this being WWE, it's like, they want to kind of show that, they're fighting. These two top guys are fighting for something, like not just fighting. Now, depending on the availability of The Rock, they could have started telling, like, even if The Rock is distant and only comes for like big TV shows, maybe like a TV show at MSG, a TV show in Chicago or something like that. Like, they just fly him in. He tells some type of story that he's getting along with this family, blah, 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 blah. Until maybe one day Roman says, "Acknowledge me," and Rock's like, "I'm not acknowledging you." and then that's where the beef begins. Like, but they're not telling that kind of story. They may, but I don't know how they're going to get in such a short time to Rock versus Roman. I feel like whenever this story was going to come, and I've always planned this story in my head, it needs to be a slow burn, to really, emphasize the fact that these two are like the top in it. Like, we're going to get some fast forwarded version of this.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I guess you can argue in some way that they started that slow burn a few months back, because on The Rock's sitcom Young Rock, there was a scene where, Young Rock, I think he was in his late 20s, that kind of age there in the scene. And you had this like 8-year-old Roman Reigns down there, and, you're saying, "I want to fight you." And The Rock then says, a match like that can only happen at WrestleMania. Ding, 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 ding. So maybe there's a small possibility maybe that that was just there just to get the hits and the views and the whatnot. Maybe it was part of the whole long-term strategy. Triple H has mentioned, when he had his interview with BT Sport just before Clash at the Castle, he mentioned speaking to The Rock and telling him just how being in the ring is nothing like doing Hollywood and all that kind of stuff, and the goosebumps that you feel and in front of so many tens of thousands of people and blah blah blah. So the possibility is still there. I believe the possibility is still there. I don't know if it's too late to start anything. I think there's still time. We're now in this generation where things can happen not overnight, but we expect things quite quickly. I think there's still more than enough time right now to build up to this WrestleMania. Mate, we've been waiting for this for like 3 years, basically. Yes, a concrete story hasn't started, but the talk started ages ago. I think it could happen from as late as Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I mean that's probably like what they've got in mind. But I mean, I just feel that it's even small things like
Right.
Roman faced John Cena at SummerSlam last year. Like, if following that match, then Rock came out, and it's like it starts as a tension, but then they just hug and embrace, and it's like, yeah, you done it, you're becoming one of the greats. And then after maybe SummerSlam this year or WrestleMania this year, Rock comes out again, and it's just we're amicable. Like, the whole world wants us to fight. Look, that's my family and all that kind of stuff. And then where he has more time, The Rock can maybe do a SmackDown and they tell a story. Now that they got a whole Solo Sikoa in there and everything, like just show us, look, we're here, get Tamina in here, like all of these people, and just show this is one unit until then Roman messes it up and does something mad, like either tells The Rock to acknowledge him or he mistreats Jey Uso or something like that, which will just make The Rock turn, and then you can really kick off the story from like a Royal Rumble, like you're saying. I just always wanted it to be really long. I know that's probably down to The Rock's availability and Roman's by the look of it now, but they've got a lot of money here on the table with this. Everyone, even if it's a Seth Rollins, a Bobby Lashley, a Kevin Owens, all of these men are just going to be collateral damage to Roman's continuous reign until we get to WrestleMania next year. They're in a real pickle with what they do here.
Very, very difficult situation, because it's very rare that we've had, I think it's happened once recently, where probably twice, where two championships were, held by one person. And then we eventually had those championships split. I think it was with Brock at one point a few years back. And the other time it happened, but I think they unified it to like one championship, was when they had the Undisputed, when Chris Jericho was the first one to have it, and then Triple H got it from him, and then it became one thing, and then boom, we had brand splits and we had two championships all over again. So my thing is kind of almost like, I think it needs to be something to do with some kind of brand split again, or the draft, or something like that. And maybe an Adam Pearce comes out and says, right, you've had this title for too long. We kind of need to do something about it. If you want to, you're on SmackDown or whatever show he ends up on, and then with the other one, if you want to keep that championship, you're going to have to defend that one to be able to hold on to it. Multiple man match. Roman isn't involved in the decision, but championship ends up on someone else. Boom. There we go.
One other way they could do it,
go for it.
And I think they've done something like this before. I think this is what you were just mentioning in terms of maybe they just make him one title out of these two belts, make him one world title, and call that the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, and just make the other show another title called the World Heavyweight title or whatever.
True. Very, very easy way to do it, actually, and just have like some little tournament or whatever else for that championship. It's doable. I don't think it's crazy. I just think the difficulty for them is Roman's schedule more than anything else, and just where and how they're going to make it fit and what day they're going to do it on. what venue, because even that is a thing for them as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. Going
Should
back
we
to
just
that.
yeah, go on. I was just going to look at these questions.
Yeah, go for it. No, go for it.
So big up everyone watching live. Cameron says Riddle will cost Seth in their match next week, but Lashley will be annoyed with the shenanigans and attack both Riddle and Seth, therefore making it a triple threat, whether that's on Raw or Extreme Rules. That's true. Very possible. He says, I think either the US or IC title is going to get pushed to the main event of Extreme Rules. That's very likely as well. And CWH, bring the world heavyweight title back. Big gold down, I think.
Gold belt.
Let's probably talk about that.
The big gold belt, that would be amazing. Cameron's actually got a very, very strong point, actually. To see the three of them mix it up, it's very easily done. Riddle could jump into the match next week, and Extreme Rules. There's always has to be some kind of stipulation. It's not no simple 1 versus 1. You know what I mean?
Well, triple threat is already a non-disqualification match in it, basically. So
there you go. So yeah, that's a very strong possibility. I think that would be very good for the US title itself. Good for Lashley. And good for whoever comes out with the title at the end of the night, to be honest. So that's a very good, that's a strong possibility. It'd be nice to see. My question was going to be, with the United States Championship being the only the biggest one on Raw, the IC kind of being the one you see the most now on SmackDown with Roman not necessarily being there so often. Do you think that either Lashley or Gunther have got it better than the other? Do you think someone's kind of doing a better job than the other in terms of those two belts?
With Gunther, I'm not under any illusion that there's a bit of new toy syndrome there. Like he's new to us, at least on the main roster anyway. Intercontinental Champion Imperium have now reformed, so that's a bit new to the audience. His style is very different from the quote unquote, WWE style. Yeah. So I saw something actually. I think if the stat is correct, if I just get it out right, out of like the last 5 or 6 5-star matches WWE have had, Gunther Walter has had 4 of them.
No,
yeah, like I think 3 were in NXT. 3 were in NXT, and then the Sheamus one, like Clash of Castle, was the 4th one. Yeah, that says a lot. Like for people that are very interested in match and good matches and stuff like that. So I think right now the Intercontinental title, and I think generally people just have more of an affinity with the Intercontinental title over the US Championship. So maybe that's why. But like I said, Bobby Lashley has been doing great stuff. Like he looks like if you just saw Bobby Lashley, you didn't know much about wrestling, you think this guy's world champion. Holding that belt, especially because this is like the new United States belt and not that other smaller one. Like it fits him right, it looks right. I just think Gunther's new and probably benefiting a bit more from that shine. But I think making these guys these kind of top upper mid carders, as they call them, and then you get the likes of a AJ Styles challenging, a Seth Rollins challenging. It's done the belts a lot of good. Those belts were in the mud before.
Listen, it's a completely different place in WWE than it was just 2 months ago.
Yeah,
very different place to be. And we're seeing other developments happening with not just the belts, but with certain characters, and something that we've been asking for and begging for weeks upon weeks, months upon months, maybe about 2 years now, is some kind of dynamic when it comes to Bianca Belair and her title runs. Now, we're seeing she was pinned for the first time in about 10 months at Clash of the Castle by Bayley, who is breathing down her neck. But at the same time, Bayley's kind of playing these mind games as if to say, well, yeah, I know that you're there, but not fussed. To the point where Bianca Belair had felt the need to have an open challenge for a Raw Women's Championship. It was mentioned on commentary. Is she doing this just to prove a point? Does she feel as though she has to do this, blah, blah, and all the rest of it? And she even said something along those lines, not kind of concrete, but was like, well, I need to show people that I am the EST, blah, 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 blah. We're getting this dynamic of a lack of confidence. Does Bayley have her under her thumb? Does Bayley have her under control?
You're a wordsmith.
I was trying. I was trying.
Look, I said this last week. I didn't want to spoil it for you and Gerard. Big up Gerard. I just see him in the comments. But it's literally. I thought that segment last week was perfect. The fact that she was like, "Oh yeah, you pinned me," blah blah blah, and Bayley was like, "Yeah, but I don't want your title. Like, whatever. I'll come for it when I'm ready." And Bianca's like, "Huh?" Because obviously the whole WWE thing is you pin the champion, you get your chance and stuff like that. Right. Bayley said, "I'm not interested. I don't need your championship right now. Don't worry about me." And then she's basically come out this week and something along those similar lines as well. Like, I know you want to prove it to me. This is after, obviously, Bianca defended against Sonya Deville. She's like, I know you want to prove to me that, you are who you say you are. You're the EST and all this kind of stuff. Oh, that's for your ego. Like, I don't care about this. And even just Bianca, the selling of it is just like, why doesn't she want to take me on? Like, it's almost like she's got a preconceived notion that she's better than me, even though I'm holding the championship.
Right.
And listen, this is very easy storytelling. They ain't gonna get no Oscars for this or anything like that. But this is just the little things that's moving along someone's character. From someone that's said they're the best, they're the best, they're the best. Right, you've lost now. And now the person that beats you doesn't even, they're done with you, one and done. You want your chance back at them, and they're not interested, sort of thing. And that's obviously hard to take for someone that's an active competitor that always wants to prove they're the best.
Right.
This is really good. I mean, I don't doubt if the match is to happen somewhere down the line. I thought, to be honest, that Bianca would retain, but now the other girls in control have got those women's tag titles. They might want to complete the trifecta and give Bayley the women's title, which I wouldn't be mad at. Again, if this was to further Bianca's story, Bianca's character, then I definitely feel like this could do a lot of good, because I mean, we've been saying it for months. Coming out and swinging your ponytail it's not a character. You have a long hair. That's a characteristic. It's not your character. Like, you see what I mean? Like, so let's move things along, and we're finally moving in the right direction, I believe.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. I love that. For a very long time, I think if we had, if we were doing a podcast before and it was wrestling in general, we'd be saying the same things about the Hogger Bayley as we are at Bianca now. It's a very similar thing. It's this whole happy to be here kind of thing, and happy go lucky, and yes, I'm good, and I know I'm good, but that's kind of just where it ends. Now that we've had this development of character for Bayley, we had the whole ding dong thing and whatnot, and now she's controlling a faction of two other ladies who, in their own right, are very, very good on their own. It's almost she for me, she's at this level where it's that Seth Rollins mind games type level, where the way she's playing mind is just phenomenal. It's like Batman villain type stuff. So it's nice to see that Bianca's been involved in all of this, and it's kind of having her to think she's doubting herself, or she has to prove this, she has to prove that. And then now we get this thing where Dakota Kai and Io Sky now have championships. So as you said, it now makes us feel, right, are we going to get all three of them with belts? We've never seen that with women.
Yeah, it's
not had that with women ever.
It's true. It's rare.
We've not had that with women. So it would be a first time with that. They would be an absolutely perfect trio to do that with. As I said, all three ladies are great within their own right and have their own accolades to kind of, boost their whole thing in their own right. So to have all three of them, and then we get this whole thing of Bianca, no title. What does she do? How does she work her way back? Is she even able to do so? And all the rest of it. So the possibilities of all different outcomes of this whole storyline is what makes it so intriguing. It's not just, right, we've got a story, we expect this, and we're kind of just still invested because it's a decent story. Kind of like how Roman Reigns is at the minute. We kind of know he's going to have the title for forever.
Yeah.
But we're still intrigued to see kind of who and how he gets past the next people. Whereas this now, it's kind of all these possibilities and whatnot. The other thing I was going to say when it comes to this whole thing is we've now got Sky and Kai with these women's tag team championships. Are we going to get the two ladies coming down the runway? You see what I did there? Coming down the runway after their show during New York Fashion Week. Come on. And eventually coming back for those titles, because that's kind of what we wanted and expected and was hoping for when we kind of heard that they're back on the internal roster and, you know, there's a possibility of them coming back and returning. Do you think it comes soon? Is it later on? Is it with them involved? Will this whole Bianca thing happen first? What's gonna happen?
There's a part of me that wants them to come back as a tag team and obviously right to the top, face these guys. Maybe these guys clear out the very small women's tag division that we have, and then Sasha and Naomi walk back in. There's a part of me that wants them to just come back as single stars. Yeah. Like it's rare. You know, a couple of women have done it in the past. The Charlottes, the Becky, maybe Bailey is what we're going to see next. Women really rarely make a return as like, bang, I'm here. Where's the title? Like, and just come after it, sort of thing. It's usually what they use for men, whether they're being signed to the company or returning for an injury. We rarely see women just come in and go for the top, like literally go for the neck of the dragon, sort of thing. And that's what I would like to see the likes of Sasha and Naomi do. Like, even if it's in, you know, a losing effort sort of thing. This isn't, we don't need to overprotect them. They're very familiar to us. Like, but just to really come in and make a statement. And, you know, we will all think like, okay, Raw, obviously these like being outside doing bits, they're going to come in, they're looking like they're going to be treated like a big star. I think that's what's needed. And just on those two, I have absolutely loved their online personas since leaving WWE. Like, it's been like, okay, put wrestling to one side, let's crack on with anything else, and anywhere else we can get work and stuff like that. And it has felt very Mercedes and Trinity, and not so much
Naomi and Sasha.
WWE superstar Sasha Banks is doing this. It's like, no, that's behind us. And I guess that's helped in terms of their branding. It's helped in terms of their just to move things along and to show WWE. I know, again, different regime, but it's almost to show them, look, we don't need you, sort of thing. Like, we're doing just fine. You know, I'm sure Naomi, you know, we spoke about the kind of stuff that Naomi could get herself into. Spoke about the stuff that Sasha could get herself into, and where Sasha is currently opening doors. And I'm sure, you know, both of them are opening doors for each other, and they're clearly sticking together through navigating the outside. I honestly think that the applause, the ovation that's going to happen when these girls walk back in is going to be insane. they have raised their stocks so much, as human beings, that at this point, wrestling is an afterthought. If they come back to this, it's just pretty much because they want to.
It's crazy, as you said, that their whole persona. You know, I mentioned them doing New York Fashion Week, and you know, it wasn't just one show, it wasn't just one fashion show or one designer they worked with. It was quite a few. Gerard put in the comments, mentioned in the comments about an article that he saw talking about Sasha launching her modeling career. You know, there were so many things that both ladies could do, or are starting to do. If they haven't started it already, they're doing it now. We were at first probably a little worried about what Naomi could do, but I'm sorry, out of the two, Naomi looked so ready on that fashion, on that catwalk, more than Sasha did. So I'm like, right, I see where she can go, and she knows that too. So, as you said, in terms of their whole brand and everything else, when and if they do eventually, because there's still an if about it. There's still an if about it. When or if they do return, the ovation is going to be absolutely crazy. We saw what happened when Sasha Banks returned the last time. We saw what happened when Naomi returned the last time at Royal Rumble with the big afro and what buzz that came with. So to now have her even more so in the public eye, and it not just be wrestling. I don't even know what that's gonna look like. And what's amazing, you think about this now. What's amazing is when you look at the three. Well, I was gonna say the three top black women, but there only are three especially the main roster. At least the three black women in the WWE, that be Naomi, Sasha, and Bianca. All three of them are absolutely killing it outside of wrestling. You actually can't say that about anyone else in the women's division. You actually can't say about anyone else in the women's division. Becky had a little bit of a run for a couple of weeks or whatever, but no one's talking about Becky Lynch like that. You know what I mean? You've got Bianca being signed to Hollywood-based, big-time entertainment agencies and whatever else, and the other two clearly doing what they're doing as well. So that's massively encouraging. It shows, the levels that they're at. You can say the very same thing about Jade Cargill over in AEW as well. Mm-hmm. No one else is doing what she's doing over there. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Bro, it's the fashion they got rid of. Anyone with two eyes, and even you can say that another company could use them to be doing like a PR stunt. Oh, these guys are unceremoniously got rid of where they came from. Well, we're taking them on board. Look at all the talent they have. We're gonna shine the light on them. And of course, WWE fans are gonna run in their spades to see, oh, what's Sasha and Naomi doing over there now? Let's all go see what's happening over there. So listen, they've just carved a complete new road for them, and this is why I think when they come back, because of everything they've been doing, they've been keeping their name. They're not talking about the situation. They've developed their own names in these industries they're tapping into. Yeah, they have to be. They're above the women's tag titles now. They're literally above these women's tag titles. Not to say they weren't before, but now it's like just as individuals, as wrestlers, everything about them, they've surpassed these titles and what these titles mean. These titles should now be continuously used to kind of develop new talent coming onto the main roster and to bunch these women together, develop them, and then then they can go on to do single stuff. Naomi and Sasha don't need that.
But my question is this: that as you mentioned already, they've showed a united front outside of wrestling as well. Does that then come into play when they come back? Also, as well, you mentioned, the tag team the women's tag team championships being something to help develop. Now, I know that was part of the original plan in Sasha and Bayley's mind when they first kind of had the idea, wanted to run with this women's championship, wanted to go different places. That's why they went to NXT and all the rest of it. That's still, for me, a possibility, even with them two coming back and winning it. They then do what they're doing, put over one or two, ladies, have a feud with a certain group, and then let them flourish with the tag team championships while they then go back to the solo stuff. That's a strong possibility as well. So again, we're in this position where the possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this whole thing very, very intriguing. There is still a possibility, as I said already, that they don't come back at all. And even that's intriguing.
Yeah.
To see what they then do with their lives and their careers. So everything around them right now is just crazy. It's just crazy. I don't know how else to explain it or what else to say, to be honest. It's mad.
They've done, and I don't mean this in any kind of derogatory way, but as women, as black women, they've done extremely well to keep their decorum, because obviously this could have turned ugly. Some people, you do shoot interviews and this, that, and the other, and whatever. Like, this isn't a situation that was handled very badly from the jump that could have turned even uglier on their watch. They've just used it as an opportunity. They've built their stock, and like I say, by the time if they choose to go back to WWE, WWE should be literally throwing titles on them.
Right.
So they could literally say, oh, Naomi that walks New York Fashion Week is now the women's champion in WWE. And know how WWE will spin it into like their own kind of PR thing. Like it all makes sense. Looking at Gerard's comment here, he said, all of this has absolutely proven that they do not need WWE at this point. Yesterday's price is not today's price at all, bro. And he said, consider this. WWE has not produced a mainstream female megastar until Bianca, Sasha, and Naomi.
Read the next comment.
We have Rock, Cena, Batista, but no women until now. Yeah. These are at least 3 women that you could say they're literally, if not crossed over, if you don't want to jump the gun and say crossed over, they are literally in the process of crossing over now.
Yep. And as Gerard said, there's been no other female that can say that. You can kind of, I guess the one woman who probably came the closest to doing that was probably China.
Yeah, you could argue China, but I guess I'm not sure to what degree. And if you're to rank it with where these ladies are now, where exactly it ranks?
It's a very different thing. I think for me with China, it was only a thing where she was a known name outside of wrestling. That's as far as it really got. She did other stuff after she left wrestling. We don't really want to talk about that, but she didn't actually cross over at all. She was a known name, or the most talked about female they've probably ever had before these ladies now.
Ronda came with her name. We can't dismiss Ronda Rousey, but she came with her name. What's her face? Becky, like you said, like she's almost got a foot on that bridge of crossing over, but I would say still very much early stages to compare to where these women have gone. So
for sure, very intriguing, very promising. It's crazy. So. Over on AEW, we have Swerve in Our Glory, and we're going to get a Swerve in Our Glory versus the Acclaimed 2. Do you want to see that match? Are they building it correctly? What's the outcome?
I'm wondering why they're doing a rematch. The AEW don't do rematches. I can probably count on one hand how many AEW rematches there have been in close proximity like this.
Right.
Very few. AEW don't do rematches. And for them to do this is making me think, are they going to pull something here, like an Acclaimed win? It is in New York. I believe that's their hometown.
Yep.
I don't mind it. Like I said last week, I don't mind it. It'll be fun. The age-old question: where does Swerve and Keith Lee go from there? Do they break up during the match? Is there a breakdown during the match which causes the win for the Acclaimed? Because if it's just a straightforward Swerve and Lee win again, clean again, then I don't really know why you chose to do it again.
True.
Maybe the Acclaimed do get a win some way, somehow.
I was literally just about to say almost word for word what Gerard just said. It's clear that they are going to put the belts on the Acclaimed. I mean, as you said, it wouldn't make any other sense as to why. It would make complete sense as to why they're even doing a rematch. I was kind of arguing, did they miss a trick by not putting the belts on them at All Out in the first place? So maybe they're kind of thinking they're right or wrong in some way. It being in New York kind of tells you a lot. There's a very easy way they could tell the story of Swerve and Lee being beaten. As you said, their dynamic has kind of always been this thing where, they're not necessarily, on the same page and don't really see eye to eye. We saw like twice at least, or probably even 3 times during their match, someone hit the other, and we kind of expected the blow up. Then, how long will that last until we actually see something happen? So I wouldn't be upset for the Acclaim to win. They're the hottest team in the company at the moment, apart from FTR maybe, when it comes to tag teams. So it would make sense. But yeah, as you say, it's just then what then happens with Keith Lee and Swerve. The only thing I can think with Swerve kind of almost going down this heelish kind of road. The only thing for me would be TNT.
For Swerve.
He would kind of be pointless otherwise. Like, why? What else would he do apart from? Yes, there's other people to feud with and stuff like that. But you know, he then wouldn't. It would feel like as if he's just another person. I don't want him to be that after he's been, you know, a tag team champion or has had a belt for a bit of a time. Keith Lee.
So
maybe.
Yeah. So to just go off Ola's comment here, Ola says Acclaimed will win, but it's one pay-per-view too late for me. I would somewhat agree. However, with how obviously their match at All Out was fantastic, but with how that pay-per-view ended, which we didn't know, it was all gonna go into what it did with the press conference. I'm glad it didn't happen there. And you've seen that the Acclaimed are well and truly loved, and that was Chicago, and they were getting that ovation in Chicago. So New York, 20,000 fans instead of, you know, the 15K or so at All Out. They're gonna blow the roof off the place, like for the Acclaimed, and if it comes through. And I made a video about this on my Instagram this past week that give Danielson the AEW title. This might be a similar move. Give the Acclaimed the tag team championship. I think AEW need to. It's almost hitting the reset button. Bring the feel good factor back. Sort of thing, and let people trust that, okay, I'm seeing good wrestling, talents that I enjoy, not controversial names are here winning titles and prospering. So maybe, you know, in hindsight, this is a better venue for all of this to happen. But like you said, Swerve and Keith Lee are, you know, what will be the rubble left from all of this. And it's somewhat similar to Hobbs and Starks, although they've had a long kind of on-screen relationship, and we saw the breakdown. Hobbs got the best of him at All Out. For me, Swerve will be the guy that takes off if this was to happen. Honestly, respectfully, Keith Lee is toast. Keith Lee is toast. I know he's probably dealing with, you know, coming back from the health scare and all of that, and it's a bloody shame, man, because this guy, Keith Lee's been excellent. His NXT run, when he finally got going, when he gave him the titles, this guy was on another level. And obviously through the health issues and maybe some other stuff, he just hasn't got back to that. Even with what he's been doing in AEW, it's not the same. Like, it's just not the same guy. And I would expect Swerve to really kick on, and they look like they're really behind Swerve. Keith Lee, it may be elevation and Rampage matches and stuff. It's hard to say, it's hard to take, but I mean, I've got two eyes and I can't lie. I can only say what I see.
Is it with this whole thing with the worry of what happens with Keith Lee? Is it just down to his in-ring ability, or could it be down to booking? Like, obviously we had this whole thing where when he was still in WWE, when he first went to the main roster, he was thrown right in there with Randy Orton at the time. He was the #1 contender during that time as well, mixing it up with Drew McIntyre, who was the WWE champion. But then obviously things just went south out of nowhere, kind of thing. And we had this Wildcat Lee.
Bearcat.
Bearcat. See, I'm even trying to forget about it. So then when he eventually was released, obviously we had this whole thing for months where we were anticipating the switch to AEW, and that would be him saved, you know, his whole career, his whole persona, his whole everything being saved by AEW, who are more about the wrestling, more about the indie style that he was, you know, was famous for and, you know, became famous with. But he came at the wrong time, again, with so many other people coming in, and all of those people have probably either, you know, underrepresented or, you know, or whatever else. Even with Malachi Black disappearing, now he's now left the company and all this kind of stuff. Do you think it's to do with that more than it is Keith Lee himself?
I'm actually going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one, and I feel Keith Lee, something's changed. I feel at least 2 to 3 steps he's slower. It's something's just not quite right. And like I said, I don't want to go too in on him because I know obviously there was a health scare there and everything that he's recovered back from, and he's got back into the ring again when it easily could have been you're never wrestling again. But I just feel something's missing. Like, let's be honest, it's not like they've given Swerve everything. Like, even in this tag team run, I think they've had obviously the same amount of tag team matches. They're a tag team, but like Swerve has had one singles match and he showed out. And even in the tag team matches, Swerve is kind of showing out a bit more. It just seems like they're giving Swerve a bit more, and Keith Lee's just in the background, just playing his part as like a supporting act. And that could just be because Swerve's character is louder than Keith Lee's. But just in terms of a performance in ring, when we're just watching a match, if you just watch these two guys, like Keith Lee doesn't look like Keith Lee of like 2018, 2019. He just it's not quite there, and that's why I think, well, if they do split them, Swerve will be fine. Keith Lee is the one that I worry for his TV time.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I think it's crazy that we can even say, even still with the stuff that he's been doing in the ring, we can still say he doesn't look the same. But yet, even with the things that he's doing, you're like, wow, he just did that. But at the same time, we know he can do other things.
We know he can do more. We know he has more to offer. And even if it's just a question of getting there faster or something, just looking like the cell is just looking a bit more mad. Like, just all of that's gone. Like, he just looks like a bit of just a big man wrestling this kind of style, whereas before he was still a big man, but he looked like a hybrid. He looked like he belonged, sort of thing.
Right.
But now he looks like he's a big man. Just like last week, he learned how to do a moonsault, so now he's going to do a moonsault, and he hasn't been doing it for years. You see what I mean? It's really sad. Like, I'm not making light of it at all. It's actually genuinely sad to see. Like, I thought this would be a good platform for him to really kick on, and they would have seen how much people were behind him in NXT and what he could do in NXT on that kind of platform. And it's like, yes, let's pick him up, drop him in AEW and let him just do the same. But maybe they saw early on, like, just things aren't clicking. And for this one, I would say, I won't say it's the booking. I would say it's maybe more internal with Keith.
Fair enough. I mean, hopefully in time, maybe it would be a good thing that they take the tag team championships off Swerve and Lee, maybe to give Lee a bit of time to rest and recover, or to rehabilitate, or whatever it is that he needs to do, whether that's a straightaway, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whatever that is. Swerve, I believe, has come into his own during this whole time. He definitely has a character and a charisma that can take him quite far in AEW, and whether he has a belt or whether he's contending for a belt or not, he just has enough in him to make anything kind of an intriguing story or feud or whatever it is. So let's hope we see something coming from this. I mean, we're talking as if they've already lost the championships, but who knows? Who knows what could happen with this? But it is looking a lot more like the Acclaim they're going to come away with these championships, and then it's going to be interesting to see what happens with those two, if they or when they have these championships, because we've already said what other tag teams are there. So with the Acclaimed winning, who will they face? You know what I mean? Who will they have any kind of real, feud with, all that kind of stuff? House of Black.
I was just about to say I'll call it now, because it looks like Malachi stepped away. They're going to become a tag team, maybe more so than trios. There's no trio anymore. Maybe they're the guys that will eventually pick up the titles next. So they may not have House of Black first, but yeah, they'll pick it up. I mean, the Acclaims, their bag is their entertainment value, their characters. We're not going to get, although this match with Swerve and Lee was very good, They're not going to be like the Young Bucks or the Lucha Bros that can have an absolutely nonsense program, but still put on a brilliant match at the end of it.
Right.
Like, that's going to be very few and far between when it comes to the Acclaim. So they just need to keep getting their character over and, you know, getting their TV time, making us laugh, be entertaining, make the run mean something so that when they do drop those titles, they feel a bit more important as an act.
We've got 5 minutes left of the show, almost bang on. There was this one thing I wanted to talk about very quickly. Today, the day of that we're doing the show is the eve of the 2022 PWI 500 kind of coming out, being available tomorrow. We'll find out who they've rated as the top 500 male wrestlers. Oh, actually, not even just male. 500 wrestlers. Any females who have faced any males will also have the chance to be in that list as well. But a very interesting list came out yesterday. It was the Black Wrestling's 500. Always seems to cause this type of this controversy each year. I believe it's possibly the third or fourth year that it's happened now in a row. And it's a list of the 500 top, I guess, black wrestlers from around the world. Mex, when you first saw this list, what did you think of it? Or actually, no, answer this question first. What do you feel this list does for the black wrestlers who appear on the list?
It's great exposure because, you know, the list is always going to be a talking point. Good, bad, ugly, whatever. It's always going to be a talking point. So it's good to see the exposure. You know, I went through the list. I saw some of my, I guess, indie favorites, you know, some guys that we speak to on that list. And it's good to see that, you know, they feel a level of accomplishment because it's like, wow, I've out of all the black wrestlers in the world, I've made this top 500 list. Right. Whether they're number 500 or whether they're number 1, like they've made the list, innit? And I'm happy for our peers, our friends, wrestlers we speak to, that they have that level of accomplishment. And, you know, it probably works as good motivation and drive for them as well. Then there's the other side of things where, you know, like you said, it causes the controversy and stuff. Just in terms of this particular list, the only thing I would say is they say these are 500 wrestlers, 500 black wrestlers you need to know about. This may be a really small thing. If that's just the case, remove the numbers. We just have a name of a list of 500 people there, no numbers, because the minute you put numbers, it looks like ranking.
Right.
So you put if you're gonna rank them, innit? Rank them with your chest and say this person's better than this person, or this person at least had a better year than this person. If you're gonna rank them with your chest. We can't just be putting 500 names down and putting numbers next to it and saying it's not a list. Because you know the internet. So unless you purposely done this to make the internet talk and discuss it, maybe that's your marketing tool. Fair. I'll hold my hands up, calm, innit? Awesome. But like if it's genuinely just 500 wrestlers we should know about, then there's probably a different way you can do it. Because of course, the minute you put Bianca Belair number 1, I don't think anyone's going to dispute that as the best black wrestler for this year. But then it says this is a ranking. So we're going to start scrutinizing every other number.
And this is where the confusion happens, and it happens every single year in terms of what this list actually is. You get different explanations. It's not a ranking, but you then hear that there are certain people who are told to retweet where they came in the list, and all this kind of thing. And as you said, you kind of see this thing where you see numbers, and you see about Bianca Belair on the top as the number 1. So you're thinking, well, obviously, so this must be a list. Then you see Swerve at number 2, and you're like, huh? What? So, and then after that, there's no criteria. You then get told it's not a ranking. There's all this confusion that's happening. And for me, the worrying part about it, as much as there is, the great sense of accomplishment or recognition from the 500 people who appear on the list, and probably never been on any list before, and all that kind of stuff, and it now has some kind of notoriety, I guess, to it, or popularity, or it's known. There's that, but then for me, that's like the small part of the big issue. Because the big issue then is, you'll have people disgruntled about where they placed in the list, not understanding why they're at a certain number. Why is this person with that person when that person's had a championship and this person's done nothing? This person's had 10 matches and on number 70, while this person's had 25 matches and won most of them and is at number 300 and something. Like it's all of this stuff that causes the confusion. And with another previous list that was put out this year, there was some disgruntled black wrestlers who made it known on Twitter about how these lists can also then cause a problem within the community itself. And even they have asked to be removed from these lists. And it's worrying that this is the kind of thing that's happening when almost every, I know of 3 lists within this black wrestling community that come out every year. And I know for a fact, every single one of them is born out of the fact that we feel as though black wrestlers are underrepresented. And it's a way for us to highlight our favorite wrestlers, to highlight the black wrestlers, to give them some level of, as we've said, accomplishment, achievement, because they were very much represented in the big PWI list at about 3 or 4 years ago. So to then get the response or the negative response that happens so often from these lists is very worrying. It's very scary. And for me, I think the reason why I've made it known of my opinion and been cancelled and blocked by people as well is simply because the only thing I want to see is for us to make sure that we're doing everything at a level that cannot be questioned. It's of excellence. It's not us, putting certain people in a certain place because they're our friends, and all this kind of thing. Let's do this to a level that someone else will look at it and be like, they know what they're talking about.
That's a credible list.
That's a credible list. These black fans are invested in this thing. Let's probably invest in them. All that kind of thing, and not just, right, let's just throw a list together. Someone makes a fuss. Oh, just be happy that there's a list. You know what I mean? And I'll say this, and I'm gonna say this. Just because you put black at the start of it, it doesn't mean that every black person has to support it.
True.
At the end of the day, I want to see my people do excellent things. So if I see something that doesn't quite make it excellent, I'm going to tell you why I think it's not excellent and what to do in order to make it excellent. Not just to kick it down and rubbish it, to give you help, constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And I think that's just what we want to see more often. Continue to do the lists, continue to put these people on your lists and do whatever it is that you're doing. But let us just make it make sense and make it excellent. And I think that's the only thing I'm going to say, because I'm not going to say anything more. People have probably already cancelled me for a second time already, or whatever.
Oh, I agree.
It is where it is. It is where it is. With that said, we are at the end of our time. Look out for this PWI 500. The most, I guess, noteworthy of wrestling lists in the world. It comes out tomorrow, so obviously by the time you're probably listening to this, it will be out already. Our friend is the editor-in-chief. We had him on the show last year.
Big up, Kevin.
Great to talk to, man. Great to talk to with Kevin. Great insight into how it all works. So check that out. That's the end of it. That's the end of it. Guys, you can follow me, Black Wrestling Alliance, on Instagram. I'll be putting as well, actually, with the PWI list, I'll eventually at some point put a whole thing together of all the black wrestlers that end up on this 500 list as well. Also check out, of course, Mex the WrestleManiac on Instagram, WrestleManiac.uk, WrestleManiac UK on Twitter. Also as well, if you're watching, of course, check that notification bell, click subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. And folks, we'll see you again next time if we make it.
See you later, guys.